The circus was a spectacle, promising escape, wonder, and a hint of danger. Among the clowns and trapeze artists, one act drew a hush over the crowd, a lone orangutan named Clyde. Clyde could juggle, ride a tiny bicycle, and fire a miniature cannon, delighting the audience. But beneath the surface, Clyde felt the sting of the whip and the confinement of his cage. He yearned for the freedom of the jungle. The circus fell on hard times, and Clyde found himself on the back of a flatbed truck, leaving the only home he'd ever known. And so, Clyde's journey began. Sloppy. Old Man Hemlock, a solitary farmer, bought Clyde, hoping the ape could help with chores. Hemlock found solace in the quiet rhythm of farm life and had no use for conversation. What he didn't know was that Clyde harbored a secret he could speak. Fear kept Clyde silent, playing the part of the obedient performer. But in Havenwood, amidst the isolation, a storm was brewing. A storm fueled by fear, misunderstanding, and a secret that would shatter the stillness of the night. Jebediah Hemlock, weathered by time and hardship, was wary of change and secrets. The farm, a legacy passed down through generations, faced tough times. Desperation led Hemlock to take in Clyde, hoping the ape's strength would help. The circus folk promised Clyde's abilities, but omitted his intelligence and mischief. Hemlock had doubts, but the price was right. He reasoned an ape couldn't be worse than the blight or the bank threatening foreclosure. Clyde's arrival at the Hemlock farm was met with curiosity and apprehension. The farm animals eyed him with suspicion, and even the old hound dog kept a wary distance. Clyde, unfazed, took to the chores with eager enthusiasm, understanding Hemlock's gestures and commands. As weeks passed, a strange rhythm settled upon the farm. The silence was now punctuated by the sounds of Clyde's labor. A new companionship began to form between man and ape. Despite Clyde's willingness to work, Hemlock felt uneasy, often catching Clyde's intelligent eyes watching him. Townsfolk whispered rumors of strange noises and sightings of Clyde in the woods. Hemlock dismissed the stories, but couldn't shake a seed of doubt. He told himself Clyde was just an animal, albeit an intelligent one. But deep down, he feared the dangers of underestimating the wild. And in the shadows of the woods, something watched and waited. Autumn brought a chill to Havenwood, and Hemlock toiled to prepare for winter. Clyde's strength was invaluable, and Hemlock relied on him more. One evening, Hemlock shared his moonshine with Clyde, who mimicked the farmer and drank it. The effect was immediate, and Clyde's curiosity turned to agitation. He paced restlessly, knocking over furniture, alarming Hemlock. Hemlock realized he had made a grave mistake. Clyde's agitation grew, and he roared, sending shivers down Hemlock's spine. Hemlock tried to calm him, but Clyde's rage intensified. Clyde lunged at Hemlock, who scrambled to defend himself. Fear and desperation drove Hemlock to grab a wrench. He swung it with all his might, connecting with Clyde's skull. The struggle had only just begun. Hemlock backed away, trying to escape, but Clyde lunged, crashing into him. Hemlock hit the ground hard, pain shooting through his ribs. Clyde loomed over him, eyes blazing with rage. Hemlock scrambled for the wrench, swinging it desperately. The wrench connected with Clyde's skull, but the ape's fury only intensified. Hemlock realized the true extent of his folly. Hemlock's eyes darted around, desperate for a weapon. He lunged for a heavy wrench, feeling its reassuring solidity. Clyde closed in, and Hemlock swung the wrench with all his might. The metal connected with Clyde's skull, echoing through the house. Clyde staggered, but his fury only grew. Hemlock braced for the next attack. Clyde's rage intensified, and he charged at Hemlock. Hemlock met the charge head-on, swinging the wrench repeatedly. Blood splattered across the floor, painting a horrifying tableau. The struggle was a gruesome symphony of violence. Hemlock's fear gave way to cold, desperate anger. The air crackled with the raw energy of the fight. Hemlock lost track of time, swinging the wrench until Clyde's roars subsided. Clyde's body collapsed onto the floor, silence descending. Hemlock stood trembling, the wrench still in his hand. He looked down at Clyde's crumpled form, a mix of emotions washing over him. He had survived, but at what cost? The true horror of that night had only just begun. Hemlock didn't remember leaving the house or talking to the sheriff. Word spread through Havenwood. Clyde had snapped and attacked Hemlock. Fear gripped the townsfolk, and a hunting party was formed. Men shouldered their rifles, determined to find Clyde. Lanterns were lit, casting flickering shadows. They would not rest until the threat was neutralized. Clyde had retreated into the sanctuary of the woods. The moonshine had faded, leaving a throbbing headache and a gaping hole in his memory. He had flashes of violence, fear, and the metallic scent of blood. They swirled and dissipated like smoke, leaving him lost and disoriented. He wandered aimlessly, the trees towering above him like silent sentinels. The forest now felt alien, menacing. Every rustle, every snap sent shivers of fear down his spine. He was alone, injured, and hunted. The hunt lasted for hours. The setting sun staining the sky a bloody crimson, as if echoing the violence that had stained the floor of Hemlock's farmhouse. The men, their faces grim, their eyes hardened with a mixture of fear and resolve, fanned out through the woods, their calls echoing through the trees. They found traces of Clyde's passage, broken branches, disturbed undergrowth, footprints the size of dinner plates pressed into the soft earth. Each sign fueled their determination, pushing them deeper into the heart of the darkness. They would not fail. They could not fail. As darkness fell, the forest came alive with sound. The wind howled through the trees, carrying with it the distant screech of an owl and the rustle of unseen creatures. The men, their nerves on edge, gripped their rifles tighter, their fingers hovering near the triggers. They knew they were close. They could feel it in the air, a palpable tension that crackled with dread. The hunt was nearing its end, but none of them could have anticipated the horror that awaited them in the heart of the darkness. The air hung heavy with the scent of pine needles and damp earth. The moon cast long, distorted shadows that danced between the trees. Clyde stumbled through the undergrowth, his breath ragged. He could feel their presence, closing in like wolves. Their lanterns cast flickering pools of light. He stumbled into a clearing, ringed by ancient oaks. The men, their rifles raised, formed a semicircle around him. Terror surged through him. The shot rang out, shattering the stillness of the night. The bullet whizzed past Clyde's ear. He flinched, his eyes darting from one shadowed figure to the next. They were going to finish him. Another shot, and another. Clyde cowered, his arms raised in surrender, and then something extraordinary happened. Clyde had a voice. "No," he roared. "Please, I can speak." The gunfire ceased. The men lowered their rifles. Clyde straightened to his full height. A witness said Clyde told them he refused to speak for the circus anymore. Others say he mumbled words we didn't understand. Silence hung heavy in the air, thick and suffocating. The men stood frozen, their faces illuminated by the flickering lantern light. For a fleeting moment, a sliver of hope pierced the darkness. Then, a twig snapped. A single shot rang out, then another, and another. Clyde crumpled to the ground, his eyes wide with betrayal. Restored order to their world. What if he had spoken the truth? News of Clyde's death spread through Havenwood like a virus, leaving unease and doubt. The townsfolk, initially relieved, found themselves haunted by the circumstances. Whispers started subtly, doubts veiled as gossip. The hunting party swore Clyde had spoken. A line had been crossed, a boundary breached. The forest now held an unspoken menace. Old Man Hemlock abandoned his farm, unable to bear Clyde's memory. Years turned into decades. The story of Clyde the talking orangutan embedding itself into the very fabric of Havenwood's folklore. Some dismissed it as a tall tale, a cautionary campfire story meant to keep children in line. Others whispered of strange occurrences in the woods surrounding the abandoned Hemlock farm. Unexplained noises, guttural vocalizations, phantom roars from the trees. Some claimed to see a shadowy figure, a hulking silhouette that vanished quickly. Tourists drawn by the tale, visited Havenwood, seeking a glimpse of the supernatural. They came seeking thrills, fueled by the morbid fascination with the unknown. And so, the legend of Clyde, the circus orangutan who could speak, lived on. They linger in the shadows, whispering on the wind, reminding us of the thin line between man and beast. And out there, in those dark woods, they say you can still hear him, asking, "Can you understand me now?" Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more crazy true stories from Tales in the Dark.